Welcome once again to your update from the city of New Hope. Time to talk again with the mayor, Kathi Hemken. Welcome, Mayor. How are you today?
Hi, Dave. It's so gorgeous outside, isn't it?
It is beautiful. Something's changing in the seasons, and we're going to talk a little bit about some seasonal things in a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit about you're wanting some input from residents. Tell us a little bit about the survey that's coming up, why it is put together, and how residents can interact.
Well, we're doing a professional survey this year. We did one in 2015 and decided at that time we'd do one every 5 years. Well, of course, 5 years comes and it's 2020 and here comes the pandemic. So we decided to push it off for a couple of years so that we could get a little bit better information. So Morris Letterman is the company that we're using, and they randomly pick 400 people to call. And they'll call with about 20 questions, won't take real long, asking you how you feel about the services that the city's providing for you. So then that'll happen in early summer. And then Morris Letterman and Company will take those answers, put them together, and then present them to us along with any comments from residents. So we won't be doing the paper survey that we do in the meantime. That won't happen. It'll just be this other survey. But if they call, please respond, because we really do need that information and we use it.
Very good. We'll keep people up to date on that process. Let's move over to community development. Few things to talk about here. We begin with the community garden. Some discussion happening in the city around this. Give us a little background. What is this? How did it come to be? And what are the discussion points right now?
Well, we're talking about the community garden that's at the food group, which is on about 54th and right off of Boone. So in 2012, one of our employees at the city got a grant to help set up this community garden and went to the food group. They had some extra space in front and they said they would let the gardeners come there. So they petitioned it all off, put a fence, put in water, did all this stuff with the grant money. Well, the farmers have been using this community garden for 10 years. Well, it hasn't been taken care of as well as it should have been. And there are some people that weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And so the food group has decided that they were going to give all of the space to a young emerging farmer to farm that. Well, of course, the people that were using the community garden aren't very happy. So they came to the city asking us, the city, if we would have a public space. So our Park and Rec department, along with our community development department, looked at the request and then indicated that we probably couldn't get this ready for this year's planting. So in April now, they being the Park and Rec and Community Development, will come to the city council. We'll have a discussion on whether or not we want to do a community garden on public land. And then we'd have to dedicate some staff and some funds to do that.
Right.
So that's in the discussion right now. In the meantime, I would hope those farmers that are at the food group now would get together and decide if they can find another piece of land at a business or something on their own. We're a little reluctant to take public land and turn it into a community garden, because not everybody wants a community garden in their backyard.
All right, more to come on that. Continuing in community development, we talk a lot about scattered site housing, and we're going to talk some specific properties in a moment, but there's a little PR going on about this program. Who's coming over with some TV cameras to spotlight it?
Well, Channel 5 is going to get a hold of Jeff Elger, and they're going over to that property on 46th and Aquila. They'll do some filming inside the house. And that's if you remember right, that's a house that had a fire, and the city took down the house and sold the land to Great Buy Homes, and they built this beautiful home there. So they're going to interview Jeff inside the home and talk about the scattered site program. Chances are they'll go to the neighbors and ask them what they think. And I think they have another neighbor on Maryland who's going to talk about moving into a scattered site house. So the program is doing very well and making a lot of people happy.
All right, very good. And some things happening with it right now. Let's talk about the site at 42nd and Boone, the former Treehouse site. How is that moving along?
Well, the Treehouse Corporation has agreed to sell the property to the city. So the city attorney has drafted an agreement with them. And now it'll go to the EDA on the 28th of February. That'd be tonight. And we will vote then whether or not the city should make an official offer on that property. If we get that property, and I suspect we will, it's 0.6 acres, so it's big enough to split in two and
Mhm.
sell the two lots to have two single-family homes built. So the orientation of the houses will, we're not real sure. I think the driveways will be facing Boone. We're just not real sure where that's going to be, but keep your eye open for that. It's really kind of sad to lose Treehouse in New Hope because that's the
Right.
original one. But there's more space where they're going, and it's a newer property, and the kids have a gym space to play in. It's just a good move for Treehouse, but it's sad to lose them.
It is. One more scattered site stop up Boone. We go to 58th and Boone. What is happening there?
Well, that piece of property really has been condemned and inhabitable since March of 2021. So it's all boarded up. We've made an offer on that property that, well, there's going to be a sheriff's sale. And what the EDA will do is tell the city staff that there's a certain amount they can go up to bid on that when that comes up. So whatever the sheriff's sale offers as a price, we'll be able to bid on that plus $1
Mhm.
up to a certain level. And once that's done, then that property will come down and we'll sell that lot and get another pretty house there.
Very nice. Business networking group. We want to give people an update. The next meeting is coming up rather quickly. When and where?
It's going to be Wednesday at 3 o'clock at Pocket Square. And it's 3 o'clock because Pocket Square is a distillery. And they thought maybe people might like to stick around after the meeting to sample their wares, if you will. And so if you're interested, you don't have to come there and sample their wares if you don't want to. Just come for the meeting. And it's at 3 o'clock where the old Mountain Mud used to be, right
Very
off of
good.
42nd.
Good information on the city's website about that and other items we've touched on, newhopemn.gov. Let's move to police and a little education here for us, Mayor. Tell us a little bit about the Crime Prevention Fund Board. What is it? They recently met, and where do the funds go?
Well, the Crime Prevention Fund, it's a board, and we had an annual meeting. And what they do is they send out letters to residents asking for donations and businesses, and they take those donations, and that's what funds like National Night Out, the old Shop with a Cop, which they now call Blue Santa. The police department has been going out having barbecues at parks in the summer. It's all part of the neighbors getting to know the police officers and the police officers getting to know the kids. And so it's our way of doing a crime prevention, if you will. So that's going on. If you happen to get a letter and it's sitting on your counter and you haven't sent in money, this would be a good time to do that.
Another item in the police department is a lot of work goes on a regular basis with the school district. Tell us a little bit about some of the meetings that are held on a regular basis.
Well, our community service officer and our police chief met with somebody from District 281, and they're looking at a Cooper High School student engagement project. Don't exactly know what that student engagement project is, but once they start working on the details, we'll have more of that to talk about.
And Officer Calio out more and more in the community, doing quite a bit of engagement. He made a recent stop, I understand, at Broadway Village.
He did. This is his second one, talking about safety. There's a lot of fraud going on with seniors. Well, not the seniors are committing the fraud, but they're being the victims of it. And Officer Calio really wants them to be aware of what's coming and to be able to have some idea how to resist that. So I'm asking people if they're in an apartment or just a neighborhood and they would want Officer Calio to come and talk to them. It doesn't cost anything. He'd be glad to come out. Just give the non-emergency phone number of the police department a call, or just call City Hall and they'll connect them to him. And Officer Calio will schedule a visit out to see you.
Great. There you see that number at the bottom of the screen. So do call and set up that visit. One final note from police, some staffing work going on. What is the latest there on some new candidates, new people coming to the city?
Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is we got 2 police candidates and a police clerk that will be sworn in on Monday, the 28th of February. And then they'll start working as full-time because they pass their probation. So that's the good news. The bad news is one of the 2 police officers is sick today. And so he'll have to get sworn in separately, probably next month. But he's not lost to us. We just won't be swearing him in until probably a couple of weeks from now.
Very good. Welcome to the new staff. Let's move to Park and Rec. And here's where we're going to touch on spring quite a few times, although we're going to start with a little bit inside activity. The dance group. Tell us a little bit about the dance program and a recent big show.
Well, they use the community gym, and it's really just a gigantic rehearsal. So these dancers aren't on stage; they're in the gym, but the parents are allowed to come and watch. So the parents can see the routines the kids are doing. They can see some of the stuff they're doing in practices. They can see the pairs, the duets, and the triplets going together and dancing. So it's really kind of a fun thing. And the kids are in costume, so it's their way of rehearsing for the big competitions that are coming up.
Another sign of the seasons changing is the opportunity to rent some outdoor spaces in the cities. Tell us about some of the facilities and how people can maybe rent that spot for that perfect outdoor gathering.
Well, we have lots of outdoor spaces to rent. And of course, we try to collect them all and then sort through them and then start sending out permits. So there's that beautiful pavilion in Civic Center Park. There's the Performance Center in Civic Center Park. Of course, the ice arena, you can always rent out the room there. And of course, the golf course is always available,
Right.
that back patio. And I'm just warning people that if they would like the graduation party there, it costs about $100 for 4 hours.
Mhm.
You don't have to clean your house. Everybody's
Nice.
outside. There's lots of air moving. There's grills to use. You can bring in your own food, but you better be renting it pretty quick now because that fills up quickly.
Another item that comes up in the spring and summer is recruiting new staff people, not only for park and rec activities, but also for some of the maintenance activities. Who do you need and how can people apply?
Well, of course, we always need people. We need them at the pool. We need them doing lawn mowing. We need them in the parks doing the park Pell programs. We need them at the ice arena doing stuff. They're just needed. So it's a part-time job. It pays pretty fairly, but they need to apply pretty quick so they can get that job. It's a great summer job for seniors or for kids coming back from college or even high school kids. I believe you have to be over 16, but I don't know how much over 16 you have to be. But there should be a website they can go to that's shown, and then they can apply online even.
All right, newhopemn.gov. Check it out there for some upcoming job opportunities. Now to the sad news about the season change. That means the skating is done and the warming houses for sure are done, but some lights still on. What can we do
Yes, they are.
outside in the winter
Well,
still?
Well, the skating isn't quite done. You
Okay,
can still skate because the rinks are open, depending on the weather, of course. If it
Right.
gets too warm, they have to close those. But the warming houses are closed.
okay.
And they've got the lights on timers so you can be there at night. This is a perfect time to be out there ice skating because it's not so cold. And the ice is a little slower when it's getting warm like this.
Right.
But we still have, this is a sure sign of spring.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we've been talking the past couple of times we've been together about a great opportunity for people around Hidden Valley Park. And it sounds like people took advantage of the opportunity, Mayor. Give us a little recap of the meeting that happened about that park update and who were some of the stars of the show.
Well, Hidden Valley Park is the park that's getting the new playground equipment. And typical when we redesign a park, we have a meeting inviting the neighbors, and sometimes there's one or two. This time there were 16, and in that 16, there were 3 kids, and these kids had their own ideas of what they wanted in the park. So they were drawing little maps and they were showing pieces of equipment that they wanted. Well, the landscape folks said they took those ideas and they said that they would put something together. So now they'll have another meeting in March. It'll be at the fire station. It's at 6 o'clock. If you don't get a letter or you want to go, just give Park and Rec a call. They'll tell you where and when. You can see what's going to happen now with landscapes will come in with a couple plans, and the kids and the adults will look at them and pick out the one they want. Of course, we've got a budget that they have to stay in, but landscapes knows that.
Right.
And then they'll pick out the color that they want on the equipment.
Very
And
neat.
then they'll go about installing it.
Great process that's been happening. Few other Park and Rec notes. Let's first stop by the golf course. I would guess they're gearing up for activities. What is going on at the golf course?
Starting March 1st, which is pretty quick,
Yeah.
you can start registering for the golf leagues. What they do is people that were on the leagues last year get first priority on the time they want, and then they'll open it up to the public. But you can go in, and if you're interested in doing that, you can give them a time that you want to play,
Mhm.
and they'll see if they can fit you in at that time. But now is the time to register. It's also a good time to buy your season pass, kind
Mhm.
of get that out of the way. That's always kind of fun.
Yep. Let's hop over to the ice arena then. A lot of activity still happening there as the winter season wraps up. Who else is skating on the rink these days?
Well, the little guys, the peewees and the bantams are doing their playoffs. And if you haven't seen the peewees or bantams play, it's really cute. I mean, they're really darling. And the adults are still doing their league. Most of the high schools are done. They're doing the dry land training. And the other thing that I just haven't mentioned before this, the walking path,
Sure.
which is above the south rink. It's open every day from Monday through Friday from 8 to 1. You can just go in and walk that nice, it's a cool path, by the way, and it's a circle.
Yeah.
And you don't get too dizzy walking, but it's a nice, safe place to walk when you're not slipping on the ice. I just want to mention with the Park and Rec, this is a really good time to go in and get a gift certificate for kids. Kids get a big kick out of having that gift certificate.
Yeah.
And then that new In Motion is coming out. And once they have that, that's got all the programs. It just reduces the cost to the families if they have a little gift certificate. So if you're looking for something to give those kids for Easter, this is a perfect gift. And if you want a couple copies of the In Motion, just go into City Hall and pick them up and do a little gift certificate for them, and they can sign up for something.
Very nice. Let's talk a little bit more about In Motion as we close. So that is in people's mailboxes now, and what's inside?
It is. It's about 50 pages of all of the stuff that's going on in the cities. If you are in need of some financial support, go into City Hall, and a lot of times they can help you with some of the financial support of these programs. They don't pay for the whole program, they'll pay for half of it.
Okay.
But it really, if you've got kids, a lot of kids, and it gets expensive after a while. So you can get some help with that. So you go in there, and there's not only things for kids, but there's things for teens and families and adults, and
Right.
things you just never even thought of.
All right.
I love the book, and I keep it through the whole season.
It is fun, full of information, and right on the tail of that, the In Touch will be coming out soon with some more information from the city. So the city always busy communicating with you, and always you can go on the city's website to find out more. And that again is newhopemn.gov. Mayor, thanks once again for your time. We look forward to talking to you again next week for another New Hope update. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Dave. See you then.
Learn more about the connection at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.